the census in the new city of South Fulton will be the first for our new city. And so, why don't you tell us why the census is so important to the city of South Fulton?
Well, we all often talk about money, and I look at census as each individual who registered for the census means $2,400 for us as a city. That's an important factor. But another fact that's even more important is the fact that this 10-year census every year, it decides how our federal, state, and even municipal governments are going to be redistricted. Some areas will gain additional districts, some areas will lose the districts. But it's very important to know that it's just not about the money. It's also about the redistricting campaign. Where does this money go? Well, the money goes for everything. It goes for infrastructure, roads, it goes to education, it goes to a host of things. And so it's very, very important that we count everybody. And in South Fulton, I'll just tell you, all I want you to do is stand and be counted, because it's very important to our quality of life.
Mr. Mayor, what are some of the things that the city have done recently? I know, for instance, there was some program held that Saturday, and what are some of the things that you have coming up in which citizens can, either help with, volunteer with to get the count up, or participate themselves if they have not done their census yet?
Well, it's been interesting with the fact that during the pandemic, there are a lot of things that we could not do because of social distancing and other things. And one of the most important things that we couldn't do, JC, was that we could not go door to door. That hampered a lot of us. But we've done a lot of things. I had the Census Count Committee for our city, along with Councilwoman Helen Willis, who's my co-chair, and Councilwoman Carmelita Gums, who's also my co-chair. And we've been trying to figure out exciting ways to do things. And it's run the gamut from mail outs to videos, the whole thing. But most interesting, as we go down to the final goal, is the fact that we've even done things like this weekend. Helen Willis was out with an ice cream truck, hoping that it worked. I mean, do the census, get an ice cream. I mean, that's how important it is. Saturday, we were all out with my two co-chairs. We were out on what we call a caravan. And we took this caravan through all of the low count areas in our city. We couldn't get out or stop or anything, but we made enough noise to wake up everybody, to let them know that the census is important. And I tell you, we found people in the parking lots who were on their cell phone. And we said, listen, stop right now. Put this website address in. Go ahead and do the census. And some of them actually did it. So there's nothing that doesn't work. Everything works, no matter how big or large it is. Then we got a caravan that's going to start at 2:00 on this Saturday, where we're going to be a part of a bigger caravan that includes East Point, College Park, City of Atlanta. It starts in Atlanta and it will end in South Fulton. And we hope that everybody comes out. We're going to end at the Walmart Shopping Center on Saturday at 4:00. And we want everybody to come out. The thing right now, the most important people to be counted, JC, is children. That's the most undercounted category that we have, is the children. So once you get out there, once you do your count, make sure that you don't neglect every child, every human being in your house. Obstacles to doing all of this is very simple. People feel that you got 9 questions to ask in the census. They think you're ICE, that you're coming to get them. We're not ICE. We're not the Internal Revenue. All of your information is well protected. You got 9 questions. You don't even have to answer all 9 of them. But just go in, take 5 minutes of your time. They will not sell your information to any telemarketers or anything of that nature. So rest assured that you're safe in doing what we're asking you to do. And no matter what your nationality or whatever the case may be, that nobody's looking for you.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. One of the things that people always say, well, can you give people things to complete the census, right? And unlike the elections, you can actually give people stuff to complete the census. So what you guys are doing, it's within the rules,
Oh,
actually.
yes.
So
Yes.
there's absolutely nothing wrong with offering people incentives to the census. And I know um, we have Miss Fran here from Fulton County Census, and it might be a little bit before your time, but I know Fran, your group has been out there giving out a ton of these stuff. So tell us about some of the little things that you may have available to give the people and how you're supporting the cities.
And JC, I may have to jump off, but I want to just to jump in for a few minutes, okay?
Sure, sir.
Right.
All right.
Hi.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Good evening,
Hey,
everyone.
Fran.
Thank you so much for bringing us together for this important conversation. We have just 15 days to go, and we know how important each moment, each hour, each minute is of those days. I just wrapped up a meeting with our complete count committee and said to them, as in my faith tradition, the pastor will tell you to look to the left and look to the right. And that means to, shake your neighbor's hand and ask, have you done, what you were supposed to do? Have you participated, and that's what we've got to do. I'm gonna have to tell off on some of my friends because I have government friends I work with who have been helping on the census, who up until about a month ago hadn't done their census. And I said, well, what are you waiting on? Well, I was just trying to get the time. I know how important it is. We're asking everybody to take 5 minutes. It literally only takes 5 minutes for most households to complete the census. It's 9 questions. They're not intrusive questions. They're not asking about your income. They're not asking anything. And we've told folk, to beware of scams because we know anytime there is a national outreach effort, there are folk who will try and take advantage of that. And so, we've said to folk consistently, do not give folk your social security number, any type of financial information. We want you to, work with us to put that out there because, of course, the message is ramping up nationally that you've got to get your census in by September 30th. And so, if you will help us with that, to tell folk, on one hand, yes, we need you to participate. We want you to be safe. And here's what you can look out for: scams. The Census Bureau will never ask for your social security number in full. They will never ask for a credit card number or bank account information, not at any time, and certainly not related to the 2020 census. So, yes, we have been giving out things. We have been working at this for 2 years. And so we are in all of the cities down south right now. We will be a part of the caravan that starts in Atlanta this coming week at 9 a.m. We'll go from Atlanta into various census tracts, those lowest responding tracts throughout the city: English Avenue, Vine City. We'll be headed out to East Point and College Park on to South Fulton. And so we are so grateful for the support and being able to work with all of our cities. We have been able to partner. In fact, for the entire time that we've been out here doing this work, from where we were doing the research side to building awareness, and now to out here, on the ground, and so we are not necessarily going door to door asking folk to come out of their homes, but we do have materials that have a quick response, that QR code on them. And we are in our Southside cities, leaving those door knockers, leaving those palm cards. We have the tables. We're bringing out the ice cream trucks, as I heard, the mayor say. We've got the icy man and popcorn lady coming, and we will share those events. We're finalizing a couple of details on those events, JC, and we'd love to be able to share those with you tomorrow. so that you can then push them through to this network and beyond, because we need everybody to be singing from the same hymnal on this. And if anyone has a question about what to do in terms of filling out the census, we invite folk to come out, and we certainly, with a social distancing standpoint, we will be helping them to complete the census this weekend.
All right, Fran, thanks a lot. Fran, better known as Madam Census in Fulton County. So she's all things census for the county.
Well,
So
you
Fran,
know
we
what?
thank you for all that work that
Thank
you've
you. The
put in for a
census
long
is
time.
all things essential, and I keep telling folk, and you had me out of order, so I wasn't ready. I wanted to pull up my new ludicrous. We've got billboards, and so if you have not seen your billboard, we've got them all throughout the South County. We've got ludicrous on the billboards. We've got a family on the billboard. So please look out for them on Old National Highway, Camp Creek at I-285, Sylvan Road coming up to Hapeville at I-85, and the good thing about it is if your Wi-Fi is open, JC, you'll get a digital message to drop on there as well with that same census information. So we are desperately trying to let folk know that undercounted communities are underfunded communities. And so I will end there. Okay.
All right. Well, hopefully we can come back to you a little bit later on, Fran. But want to switch a little bit to the public safety piece, and then we also have the folks from MARTA. We're going to go to transportation in a minute, but also we have the Chief Keith Meadows from the City of South Fulton Police Department. Welcome, Chief.
Hey, JC, thank you so much for having me today.
All right, thank you very much, sir. And just since we're focusing on the census, tell us a little bit about what a good or bad census do, or how you would use census information, population information to really affect your work on a daily basis, and even trying to get funds even outside of the general fund to help the city's safety program.
Well, JC, as you can imagine, being a brand new police department, it's very expensive to start up a police department. And so when we sit there and we look at the amount of personnel that's needed, certainly our citizen count takes a huge consideration under those regards. And so what we do is that we look at where a lot of our citizens are living and where we deploy police resources and things of that nature. And it's huge. We recently did a study with Georgia Tech, and Georgia Tech went back and they redid our beats. Well, as you know, JC, our beats haven't been redone since 1971. Well, the geographical landscape of South Fulton has changed significantly since that time. And so understanding where a majority of our population is, what sort of police resources it would take to actually service those parts of the community is extremely important. And even the demographic data that comes along with some of the census information that's taken up. We take all of those things into consideration when we look at what our community policing and outreach efforts will be. And so, and when we think about grants, the federal government right now has a COPS grant that they have where they allow us to hire police officers through this COPS grant. Well, part of our study revealed that we need about 250 police officers to fully staff the city of South Fulton. Right now, we're at 154, and we're continuing to grow, but we want to make sure that so that we don't build this police department off the backs of our citizens, that we get all of the opportunities that are out there that are available, like this COPS grant. Being able to build out our technological platforms is extremely important. As you can imagine, we're not married to any technology right now. And so being able to build that is extremely expensive. And so what we want to be able to do is just take advantage of those opportunities, those grant opportunities, both federally and locally, so that we can continue to help build out this police department in a very meaningful way. We want to be on the cutting edge of technology. We don't want to just buy technology for the sake of having it. We want to be able to be on the cutting edge. And so taking advantage of grants and all of those opportunities, they look at our census data as a way to determine whether or not we even qualify for certain types of grants. And see, so we want to make sure that we encourage our citizens to get out, be counted, so that your police department can continue to grow, but not necessarily through the general fund.
Awesome. So it's important not only for you to put money in from the city's general fund, but also to take advantage of those grants, those federal
Absolutely.
grants and programs. Um, and again, guys, if there are any questions at any time for anyone, just feel free to jump in, push that question in, or drop it in the chat box. Okay. We have two folks here from Mater. That's Virgil Flood and Miss Erica Pines. I guess we would jump in. Hey, Erica, how are you doing?
I am great, JC. I see Mr. Littles and Miss Fran Calhoun, our partner from the
Yeah.
Census on here. How y'all doing?
I think the last time I saw you pre-COVID, it was a restaurant in Washington, D.C., right?
It
Yeah.
was. We had a
Yep.
nice time in that restaurant.
Yes, ma'am.
That
So-
sounds a little shady, but we were working, right?
Yeah, it was work. It was work. We're at a conference. We had
Yes,
after
we were
hours
working.
meetings. Yeah.
Yes.
And there was no drinking. So anyway, yeah, we wanted to chat a little bit about the transportation piece and Mater, of course, being it around here, and maybe talk about how you guys may use census data and how it may affect what you do and how you do it. I know
Okay.
there was some recent news in terms of Mater, especially on the south side, so you may want to share that with our audience, and also talk about the impact of census data on what you do.
Okay. The impact of census data, as we know, things depend on population count. So the money that we receive from the Federal Transit Administration, they're giving us that money based on population density. And then there's another piece to the census I think that we also need to be talking to people about, because the census is the big 10-year event. But there's also the American Community Survey that's sent every month.
That's correct.
And what they do is they randomly choose people. It's happening all the time. That helps the data stay current and up to date. And it's kind of randomized, but they send that out throughout the year. That's just not a one-time census hit. And that data is also important for us because that's how we do service planning. So our funding from the FTA comes from population density. And then we layer that census data with the data that we're receiving from the ARC, which they receive a lot of their data from the community survey to determine our service planning. So we look at things like population density, we look at household size, we look at whether it's a single family household, whether it's an apartment dweller, like where essential services are located. If we get any data about new developments coming into a particular area, we call those traffic generators. So we'll look at, do we need to have service in those areas? So the census is very important. The census supplement that's happening all the time is extremely important also. And then the funding, like I said, is strictly like for each jurisdiction. We service 4 jurisdictions. That's the city of Atlanta is one of our jurisdictional partners, Fulton County, Clayton County, and DeKalb County. And the funding that we get from the FTA from their formula is directly tied to population size. So being counted is definitely a must.
Okay. And the recent news as to some of the proposed expansion southwards, do you want to mention that and maybe future planning based on what we think the population might grow to be, especially at the end of South Fulton Parkway?
Right. Yeah. So right now we're studying South Fulton Parkway. We're looking at doing some type of faster service on South Fulton Parkway. If you're not familiar with like BRT, that's bus rapid transit, and that's where you have faster service, fewer stops. So we call it like a train on wheels. So you can implement it much faster. You can, it doesn't take all the time and infrastructure as like rail would take, but it's a really good service. We sent a couple of folks from the city of Atlanta to LA to kind of look at that service, a couple of elected officials to look at it, to see how BRT actually runs, because when people hear buses, they think, oh, why are we just getting buses? But it's something pretty fascinating that we're doing in South Fulton that we're excited about. Okay,
good. Are there any plans to extend the rail service from College Park? And what's the timing on those?
Right now, College Park, South Fulton, and Clayton represent a lot of opportunities. Since Clayton has come on board, there are some opportunities to do some connecting service. So right now we're looking at high capacity transit, which is rail, like some type of rail service. We're not sure if we're going to be able to do it, but we're looking like some type of high capacity transit into Clayton County. And another thing, when MARTA was first built 40 years ago, when we built out the trains, we put our maintenance facilities in certain areas. But with the expansion of like South Fulton, the expansion of Clayton, we're actually going to do a maintenance facility in Clayton County, which will make everything much more efficient and speedy. Because when our buses, like if a bus breaks down, they have to come, they pretty much have to go to the cab or within Atlanta to swap out or whatever. So we're going to do a maintenance facility in Clayton County, and we just opened up a mini transit hub in Clayton County about 3 weeks ago. So that creates all types of opportunities for connectivity, because now we're serving further south than College Park.
Good. And I know MARTA has also partnered with the county. Fran, maybe you can speak a little bit to that in terms of ads or, you know, whatever else were done to sort of get the word out on the transportation system.
So were you asking about,
Yeah, there's
Probably
some partnership between the county and MARTA to get the word out about the census. What does that look like?
Well, you know, MARTA has been a great partner with us. We didn't get a chance to do all that we wanted to do.
Right. We were planning a big event for Fulton, and then came COVID. It was going to be huge, but then came COVID. Yes.
That's right. And
yes.
so, but one of the things that we are so grateful for, we did utilize MARTA bus shelters in partnership with the vendor Outfront Media. Those are still up, thank goodness. We are grateful that they allowed those to remain up past that leasing period. Yes. And of course, there were 20 buses that ran throughout the county with the census logo on it, the information about the census, and the logos for MARTA jurisdictions. And so we hoped that also was just some awareness building at that time, you know, that, yes, okay, it's census time again, you know, and, yes, and that was provided to us complimentary of MARTA. And so we are so grateful for that partnership, that ongoing partnership.
Thank you. Thank you. And I can expand also on some of the things that we're doing. We're constantly running bus audio. So we had all of our jurisdictional partners, Fran with Fulton County, Bernita, who's managing it for the cab, Angela in Clayton, and Brecca down at, Clayton is Brecca, and then Angela in City of Atlanta. We had all of our jurisdictions come together and say, what would you like the bus audio to sound like? Like, what would you like if people are riding our buses and we talk to them about census, what should it say? So that audio is currently running, it's still running. And we allowed the counties or representatives to come into the station. So right now, the U.S. Census Bureau is probably in like 4 or 5 stations every day, trying to encourage people to do the census. So we're trying to do our part to be the best community partner so that everybody wins from this census. And Fran had a great tagline about, you know, your count. What was your tagline, Fran?
Who knows what it was back then?
Yeah. No, I'm talking about now. You said it tonight.
Oh, well, no, I just said undercounted communities or underfunded communities.
Yes, absolutely.
And so yeah, that you know, I'm hoping will resonate for folk. So yes, thank you for that. We had hoped, JC, to also use that bus audio, and thank you. I had no idea that was continuing. That is awesome. Thank you. We were hoping to drive people into our libraries and other county facilities to complete the census on site. If they needed help, you know, we would have folk there ready and able, you know, prepared to assist them. And with COVID, you know, it just took all of that away. So, you know, we've all kind of pivoted, you know, to ensure that where folk are continuing to journey, that we have materials there. Thank you for that audio that's still there. Yes. You know, we haven't just gone away, but we've had to communicate in a different way.
Absolutely. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you, Fran. And I know I brought you in a little bit early. So if there's anything else that you had in your bag that you want to bring to our attention a little bit later, you know, please feel free to stick around, and
Absolutely.
we can
Thanks.
we can discuss those.
Okay.
Um,
Thanks.
we also we have a phase that was mentioned before, something that was mentioned before, um, by Mayor Edwards. He mentioned about the drawing of political lines. That's one of the purpose of the census. And on the call on the Zoom is Mr. Rodney Littles. Um, I don't know what to call Rodney, political guru, all things political on the South Side. So I'll bring him in right now just to talk about the impact on political boundaries and what Georgia has lost or gained in the last few rounds of the censuses in the last couple of decades. Rodney, you're on mute. Unmute yourself.
Okay, I'm unmuted now.
All
Thank
right.
you. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's so nice to share the stage with Ms. Fran Calhoun, my professor, as I was a student in the Fulton County Citizens University class of 2018. It's so nice to see her again. And Miss Erica Pines, we go back way in the years involved in Fulton County Democratic Party and community activities. So it's good to see her. And of course, my mayor. JC, what has been happening over the last couple of decades, population has been shifting from the Northeast, Midwest, coming south. And a lot of that population has come to Georgia since the Olympics back in the day. The whole world found out about Atlanta at that time, and folks just started migrating. At one time, about 10 years ago, it was like 100,000 people a year were coming in, new people. Matter of fact, they call where I'm from, they call Atlanta the sixth borough of New York City. There's so many New Yorkers down here. So with that increased population has come increased representation in Congress, because population determines the number of House of Representative seats that you get. That also impacts, although people may not be aware, the number of electoral college representatives that your state gets. It's based upon the number of House of Representative members. Now, the electoral college decides who the president is. And if you don't think it's important, the gentleman who's in the White House right now as president of the United States won the election by less than 100,000 votes spread across 4 swing states. The largest number was 20,000 votes. So the census, once they take it, then the state house and state senate sits down and decides how they're going to reapportion the district lines for the state senate and the state house based upon population from the census count. And we could lose in this region, which has been growing. You see the number of subdivisions and new communities being built around here over the last 10 years. It's crazy. It's all over South County. So that means if we get the correct population count, one, we could probably pick up 1 new congressional seat from this area. Congressional seat. We could pick up 2, 3, maybe 4 House district seats and a couple of state Senate seats. This is important. It's not like we've been losing population and we got to get these numbers in because we don't want to lose what we have. What I'm talking about is if we don't get the correct numbers, we don't get what we deserve in representation. How does that affect you on a city council level? For example, in a city like City of South Fulton, where I live, the council districts were designed to represent about 13 to 15,000 people population in a council district. If that number of the census is not correct, and we still wind up with, if the guide is 13 or 15,000 people in a council district, we could wind up with 5 council districts instead of 7. And we lose representation on the council and neighborhoods. The people are actually still there. They need the representation, but the numbers don't say they're there because folks didn't fill out their census. It's that critical.
All right. Thanks a lot. Look, again, the census affects every single area of our lives. And we can't preach more. I know here we're basically preaching to the choir, but we just need to help spread the word, as to why it's important. Because from the money in our pocket, the money available to our government, to who we vote for and the representation that we have, the census impacts everything. I mean, we've only touched on a few of the areas tonight: public safety, transportation, and Mayor Bill Edwards spoke about some of the things that the city of South Fulton is doing. We actually have two other cities represented online. Cindy, from Union City, you're up next. If you could tell us basically what has been happening in Union City, and what you guys are doing to push the count higher in the next couple of weeks in the city.
Okay, good evening, everyone. And JC, thank you so much for inviting me. Of course, Union City, our numbers are low. I wish we could have a better number to report tonight, but I just want to let you know that our complete count committee, they have been working very hard to increase those self-response numbers. But I think the problem is right now is COVID. And, that's been, I think that's pretty much the downfall of everything, because when we started these meetings March of last year, it was excitement and I believe everyone was on board, but now things have changed. But I would like to share a few updates. Our code enforcement, they distribute door hangers in our low response areas, which are in the apartment complexes. And I believe we have about 8. And today I rode with code enforcement because we are planning to do a pop-up event next Saturday from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. And we're, hoping that, with the ice cream truck or the Italian ice vendors, we're hoping that will entice people to come out and sign up. And also we have an event this weekend. We have our back to school event, although it is a drive-by. But I know a couple of months ago we had a fan distribution and we did sign people up that day. So my prayer is to register people on Saturday and also the 27th. So those are a couple of things we're doing right now. But with the last couple of weeks, we did have a couple events. We had COVID testings. And so we set up tables and distribute census information at those 6 days that we had the COVID testing.
JC, you're muted.
Thank you, Fran.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was talking away. I was saying one of the things that we've tried to do is to get the business community on board with the census. And Union City, you guys have a large business community in Union City, right? Fran, maybe you can explain maybe what we have done, from the county level, even with one of the restaurants or a few of the restaurants, and maybe we could share that idea, and the people from Union City might think about trying to engage at least that group of folks, business folks.
Yeah, well, thank you, JC. We have simply explained for business folk who do not know, and the South Fulton Chamber is also now sharing some information. They'll be passing out or disseminating information over these next 15 days as well. But we've had various businesses in the municipalities on the south side to agree to a discount if someone comes in and picks up a census flyer, fills it out on the spot, or can show proof that they completed the census. In many of these businesses, they can get a 10% to 20% discount. We've had one of the cupcake companies, cupcakery in East Point, to offer a free cupcake, to folk. And so those kinds of incentives we have found work. As you heard the mayor say earlier about the ice cream truck, it's amazing what a little freebie will do. So, in addition to the promo items that are branded with the census on it, we've also given out and will continue both this coming weekend. We'll actually have, Cindy, we've got 5 students for you from Georgia State, and we're grateful and want to shout out to Georgia Equality, who's helped us by partnering with us. They have a grant from the Atlanta Community Foundation. They're supporting those students, many of whom have lost their jobs during COVID. And so we are putting a little money in their pockets to come out and help us with the apartment pop-ups. And so by, in that same vein, we are, in College Park and in East Point and in each of those cities, they have been partnering up also. This Is It has been one of our big partners. They're on Camp Creek, and they will have another event this coming Friday. I don't have the times directly in front of me, but we will again, JC, share that information with you tomorrow, so you'll have the full list. And we want to just make sure that we are partnering with the cities to help supply some of the promotional items, to help bring out some of the vendors. The more festive that we can make it, even in the social distancing, kind of environment and lifestyle we have right now, instead of scooping up ice cream necessarily and gathering together, folk are getting individually prepackaged items that they can then take off. So we're doing the best that we can, under the circumstances, but we are so grateful to many of the businesses that have signed up. And we've done another round. And so it went out this past week from the county that if there are other businesses that would please be willing, to join us in this endeavor by sharing those flyers. We've got the ludicrous flyers with the QR code on them. If they will share those and work with patrons, giving them, a buy one, get one free or some incentive to do that, we're asking them to sign up every day.
Thank you. And the businesses are willing to support one's approach. For example, shout out to two of the local restaurants. Two of my favorite. One is just up the street from me, called Mustard Seed. I would say it's the best barbecue in the region. I'll get some arguments from some folks on that. But Mustard Seed has offered a dinner for 4 as a prize. So some lucky person this evening will receive a dinner for 4 from Mustard Seed barbecue restaurant. And also to the local pub. I call it the City Hood Pub, because that's where we hang out most of the nights. That's the Santon Pub. They've also donated a dinner for 4 to some lucky winner who participates in the program tonight. So at the end, we'll just announce who those people are who would be the lucky recipients of a dinner for 4. All right. We have another city in the house. Our city way to the south. That's Chattahoochee Hills. And we have Council Member Ruby Foster, who is on representing Chat Hills tonight. And Ruby, why don't you tell us some of the things that Chat Hills have done, and maybe some of the things that are coming up in the city, and what you guys are doing to push the count up.
All right, thank you so much. We do have a town hall meeting for our district this coming Thursday, which will be out signing the census during that meeting. On a weekly basis, we are sending out weekly response and trying to also put the videos out weekly. We have had a food giveaway, which was about a month ago, and we did that, and we signed up several people that day, people that really didn't even know about the census, people with 5 members in their family. So we're, constantly trying to just, spread the word.
Right. And Chattahoochee Hills present some challenges. I mean, a lot of the cities on the south side here are unique. And the thing about Chattahoochee Hills that's unique is that there's a small population in a huge landmass. And a lot of that landmass are not as developed, right? So what are some of the challenges you guys are facing actually reaching all those people on the outskirts? Are you getting enough support from the Census Bureau? Have you been seeing the field workers or the interviewers?
Well, I've heard there has been some workers knocking on the doors. I haven't seen anyone in my area because we had already filled ours out. Um, the challenge, I think, we have one subdivision which we have a lot of rentals. They're in and out, so they might be here this month, they might not. The other thing, we just continue. Some people are still scared. I don't understand why. It's not a lot of internet down in Chat Hills, so it's very difficult for people for its internet. We have offered them to come to City Hall or when they're out using the phone. So that's another. By now, some of them don't know where the farm that they received back in April. So internet is a big problem here in Chat Hills.
Okay. Fran, any ideas as to what Chat Hills can do? Any additional ideas? I know I shared some stuff personally with some of the folks in Chat Hills as to maybe hold some local events and get restaurants to sponsor things to bring people out to do the census.
Yeah, well, they do have some unique problems or challenges, I really should say, that they deal with that are very different from many of our other cities, of course, just because of the low density and just kind of how spatially dispersed folk are there in Chad Hills. And so one of the things that, but frankly, both Chad Hills and Palmetto, for example, might be interested in doing before things wrap up is kind of a weekend um, kind of gathering spot so that they can do a social distance gathering in their cars where they have brought a hot spot so that they can have folk at that very moment simultaneously complete the census. We could certainly bring out some of the census support teams to help with regard to questions that folk might have. We're certainly willing to do that and to get that on the schedule of the census leadership, if in fact that is something they would love to do. So it might be, if there is a favorite, town square, whether it be at their city hall or whether it be, at a retail spot, the favorite restaurant, in the area where people gather most is always great, where they're already going, makes the most sense. But also to ask others to come and simply, provide the Wi-Fi. That is something that Faircount has done a great job with through rural faith communities, for example. Installing those hotspots. We're getting creative. The schools are doing it with the school buses and bringing the hotspots. And I think we can utilize that same strategy and have a census hotspot day where we simply go through and help Chat Hills residents, complete the census. We're happy to
Thank
help
you.
in any way we can. Hi, Ms.
All
Ruby.
right, thank you so
Awesome.
much.
So yeah, so we can get together and decide how we may give Chat Hills a little extra help given their challenges. I know one of the things that Palmetto had said that they did was to use their public safety folks to hand out materials all throughout the city, and that helped a lot because the public safety folks know the cities, right, inside and out. So because they've been out throughout the geography and all these calls. Um, so one of the other things that I wanted to talk about this evening is the the impact of the census on healthcare and on the healthcare system. One of we don't have anyone from healthcare online, but we know one of the problems that this region suffer from is that we do not have enough healthcare service in the footprint on the south side. I think there's one hospital that is south of I-20, I believe, in Fulton County, and it's that small one in East Point. And so again, when you're looking to put down something like a hospital, it's going to be population based. It's going to be based on not only the number of people, but to some extent on the structure of the population. That will depend on the type of facility that you get and the type of services that facility will offer. Does the population skew older? What is the income like in the region? And most people are going to be afforded to have health care of a certain type, which will determine the type of facility and the type of service that we get here. So I know we have someone online who wasn't scheduled to speak, but him and I have had some discussions. David, I see you there, and I know you've worked a little bit on looking into this issue of healthcare facilities. So I don't know if you want to just talk to us a little bit about that while we kind of wait on another guest to join us at this point.
Well, yeah, thanks, JC. Yeah, I don't by any stretch of the imagination consider myself to be an expert, but I do consider myself to be a consumer of healthcare,
Right.
as most of us are. And it is, at least in my view, really, really clear that we lack the infrastructure in terms of healthcare. Again, lack of hospitals. From where I live right now, it's going to take 30 to 40 minutes to get into a vehicle and get to a hospital, no matter which direction that I go. And so that just creates some challenges on top of the fact that the healthcare system is being stressed by the pandemic. So as most folks have, as we've heard kind of on television and in other venues, that what the pandemic has done is just really highlighted a system that was insufficient to begin with. A lot of my, historic background has kind of been on the pre-hospital side of the healthcare system. And it's really just as challenging because just the ability to be able to get people from wherever they are into a medical facility is also stressed and challenged and under-resourced, and has been that way for decades. And similar to what the chief talked about in terms of funding that comes from the feds with regard to law enforcement, the same thing occurs in the healthcare system. There are federal sources of funding that come down through the healthcare system from Health and Human Services. There are grants that come to other organizations on the pre-hospital side. And again, if we don't have the population to be able to make the argument to get our infrastructure improved, we just get worse. And then, trying to deal with it every 10 years, it just really puts us behind. So, there's just all kinds of tentacles to this conversation about the census that reach into everything that we do. And again, as I said, if we don't do this the way it should be done this time, it's going to be a lot of years before we're able to get it fixed.
Yes. And of course, we know that a census just does not affect the population count for the next 10 years. It really forms a baseline. And if you're not careful with a really, really bad census, you'll be catching up for a while. Right?
Absolutely.
And while this is a topic, and I think people like Fran and Rodney and maybe yourself might know a little bit about this, but I do know a little bit about these things called population census, having worked myself in that field for a while and studied at the Census Bureau in Washington, D.C. for a while. It is something that is so important that the U.S. government, unlike many other governments in other countries that conduct their census, cut it down to just 9 questions, because they cut it that low because they said we just need to have an accurate count. In many countries, the population census is like the American survey that was mentioned before. It has a wide range of topics, including taking information on the housing infrastructure, right? As to the number and type of housing and aging of housing and so on. Many countries do it that way. So the questionnaire actually is a booklet in some countries, right? Not just 9 questions. So for here, to form that baseline is so important that the U.S. government took the step years ago to make it a baseline study just to get an accurate population count.
Yeah, JC, if I could just add one more point that just, that I just thought about as you were mentioning. This census, like many things, is as much about our future selves as it is about our present selves. It really
Absolutely.
is. It is, and as a matter of fact, it is more about our future self, because our future self is going to look back on today and go, well, why didn't you fill that out? So when you're running short on transportation funding, or when the schools are overcrowded, or the chief can't get the grant that he really needs to get extra police officers, it'll be our future selves who will suffer for what our present selves don't do. So again, that's something to get people to think about. It's not I don't know, it took me 10 minutes to fill out my census. It may have been less than that. It was pretty easy. But the 5 or 10 minutes that people take today will have a significant impact on their future self, and their future self will love them for it if they'll do it.
Yep. I mean, we're just scratching the surface of this topic, obviously. I mean, we haven't even talked about stuff like infrastructure development and the need to have, some basic things. Water. Do we have enough water? Do we have the system to support water for the population, not only for now, but what it's going to grow out to be, in 10, 15 years? So if we don't count ourselves, all those things are based on, those projections are based, the infrastructure is based on the projections of the population in an area, right? And what those services would need to look like. Any questions? Anything else to add? Anyone on the panel?
Well, JC, I just wanted to say something that may be stating the obvious, but as we get on a path to recovery from COVID-19, we are going to need to make sure that we have accurate counts. It is going to be more crucial than ever before. We know how critical an accurate count is, but I would suggest that as we move forward, as we look at our future, we're going to be counting on a lot of programs across the board, both healthcare as well as workforce development. There are any number of programs that we will need to ensure that we've got accurate numbers to really be able to serve the breadth and width, if you will, of the fallout from COVID going forward. And so that is something that I think we cannot underscore enough.
Absolutely. I mean, the CARES funding was based on population, right? And so with all the federal resources that that are going to come, whether it's in the recovery or whether it's through a vaccine. Fran, for some reason you got muted. That stuff is going to be based on population. When there's a vaccine, they're going to look and say how many people are in Fulton County, right? We need to provide enough vaccine for Fulton County, and if the population of all 14, 15 cities, it's 1.5, and we get 1.1 million, then it means we're going to be 400,000 short.
That's right. That's exactly right. And that is indeed the point. These are very critical matters. It's not just the matter of having it, for next year or the following year, something that's nice to have. These are critical must-have services.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So again, as we talk about the census affecting every area of our lives, and as David said, not just the now, but the future. This is really serious stuff, right? And I know because we work in the area that folks have said, well, you might be making too much of a big thing. No, we're not, right? Because again, as you mentioned, from natural resources to the services that are provided by government are all census based. Okay.
Share some good news.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm always looking for that these days.
Yeah.
So I'm looking here at our updated count. So our self-response as well as the non-response follow-up by the Census Bureau puts us today at 85.6% of our population counted. Now, in 2010, we got up to 77 in Georgia, 75.3 in Fulton County. And so, as you can see, we are already, 10 points ahead of where we were. Well, I should say actually 8 points ahead because this is a statewide number that I'm looking at. We've not been able to get the localized numbers very easily. And so this is the statewide number. Fulton County, for the first time since March or either early April of this year, is equal in its self response to the state of Georgia. So, we've had this very wide disparities, and I've been trying to say to folk very nicely and gently that, we're grateful that the folk in Johns Creek and Alpharetta are at 77%, but we're concerned, when we see cities, like College Park that are at 42% and 43%, because those cities will lose out on resources. The count is about counting accurately, for your population, but it's also about where your population is counted, making sure that we know precisely. And I think, Rodney spoke very eloquently about that earlier and telling us why that's important. And so, as we look at lost dollars, and I know that Commissioner Carn, for example, has been an advocate of saying to mayors and other elected officials at the municipal level that local option sales tax dollar, on average $200 per person in each of those cities, that's money that they are foregoing if they also, are not pushing to get an accurate and a higher count. It's a difference
That's correct.
of whether South Fulton gets certain federal grants, for example, yeah, and so it matters on so many levels. It's all things essential, funded by the census. And, we hear about, we heard the mayor, enumerate all of those things that fall under that, from education to healthcare, to our infrastructure and all of those things. It's everything that we have been talking about the past 6+ months, about what is essential. It's all of that. It's the building blocks of our democracy, but it's also the foundation of the quality of our lives.
Thanks, Fran. So for those who might be watching this or would see this afterwards and just jump in to go and fill out that census, what's the website?
The easiest place to go into that portal is www. The kids tell me I'm old when I say that, but I feel like I have to say that. My 2020, that's my MY 2020 census, CENSUS, my 2020 census.gov. It takes 5 minutes to complete it. Now, for most households, if you have a big household, it may take 10. But there's also a 1-800 number that persons can call. That line is open, or the lines are open from 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. And that number is toll free. It's 844-330-2020. Again, 844-330-2020 for English. For Spanish speakers, it's 844-468-2020. Again, 844-468-2020 for Spanish speakers. And again, 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. You can have any of your questions answered, and they can help you complete it. And so we really don't have any excuses. We were so fortunate that the census was online broadly for the population this time around, given, of course, our health pandemic. And so, if we are providing the support, the services in terms of the internet, And again, it's optimized, the questionnaire is optimized for your cell phone also. We can get it done. And I'm just delighted that we have surpassed where we have been. And we hopefully, will be able to kind of close the gap and get into the 90 percentile, if not a complete count by September 30th.
Awesome. The important thing is for us to make sure that our individual areas reach up to those levels, right? Yeah, and I know that in viewing some of the hard to count census tracts, a lot of them are skewed on the southern part of Fulton County, unfortunately, right? So we still have yet work to do on the south side. So as we continue to push our friends, simple things like start three, call 5 people and then asking 5 people to call,
Call a friend.
yeah,
Call a friend.
call a
Just
friend.
call a
Yeah,
friend.
encourage them. Text them the link. To take 5 minutes off of scrolling on Facebook and complete the census. It's not that hard. So hopefully we can we can get that done and get us pushed to the 90% level. Which, by the way, I looked up the where Georgia ranked earlier today in terms of the states, and we are 5 from the bottom. Okay, so there's some states are at 99%. I mean, that kind of skew smaller in terms of population, but still, if we could get up there to that 90% for us, it would be a great thing given that we only finished at about 77% in 2010.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We want our fair share. And, I tell folk all the time, we want to get back the tax dollars that we're sending to Washington. So, let's bring the money back home.
Yes. And someone just made a comment about the if the time was shortened by 30 days. Yes, when the pandemic originally happened, the federal government had put out that the new end date would have been the end of October. But they since came back and said, well, not so fast. We have to end at the end of September. And I know, Rodney, you and I had talked about uh, uh, some legal action that took place last week, at the federal level. So I don't know if you wanted to update us on what you've seen. I haven't seen any news about it after the weekend. So maybe you want to tell us what's happening there.
Yeah, JC, there was a hearing in the House of Representatives, and they brought in the folks from the census. Basically, the Congress representatives were told that we're on track, everything's great. We don't need to increase the time to go back to the 30 days, end of October. Everything's hunky dory. Why are you bothering me about this? That seemed to be the attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Short of maybe a lawsuit from some civic groups or the state attorney generals, I don't see there to be any change.
Yeah, I didn't think it was likely that they were going to change it for a third time. I think the end of September is what it's going to be. So we have to keep working
We do have
as if
one
we only
more
have 2
hearing.
weeks. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
there is one more federal hearing. The judge that ruled out of California, federal judge, said that the Census Bureau needed to cease ramping down and closing out their records and operations. There is a follow-up hearing this coming Thursday, the 17th. And so we'll look to hear what else is said out of that. But I think most of us are prepared to wrap this up and to do the very best that we can to push. I don't think that we'll see, as Rodney said, an extension. It is highly unlikely. And so we're going to have to do our best in redoubling our efforts now at this time.
Okay. Well, it looked like we're missing a couple of guests who are supposed to be on at 7:30. So we're gonna go into our wrap-up phase at this point. James, who again, thank you everyone for coming on. James Reese is here, who's sort of managing the technology in the background. Thank you very much, James. of course, James and David and Rodney and myself, we go back a ways, back to our cityhood days here on the South Side. So we are accustomed to working together and supporting each other. So again, James, thanks a lot. We want to just announce right now who the winners are, right? And we're gonna go with the first person to have signed in. James, do you want to tell us who the first person is and maybe the last person who signed in tonight?
The first person signed in was Cindy.
Okay, so Cindy is the winner of the barbecue mustard seed barbecue dinner for 4. Cindy, congratulations.
Awesome.
We will call you tomorrow and give you the details.
And
Thank you.
the
Nice surprise.
next person, the last person to sign in was Michael Carlson.
Michael Carson, thank you very much, sir. You have a dinner for 4 from Sandtown Pub. Thank you for joining. I guess sometimes it does pay to be late. So thank you much, my friend. Thank you for joining
Thank you.
supporting. All right. We'll call you tomorrow and give you the details. Okay.
Thank you.
Once again, we want to thank the folks at Mustard Seed for sponsoring the 2 prizes for us tonight. And we want to thank our supporter over there at Santon Pub, Miss Frederica Jones, who always supports stuff on behalf of the city and even initiatives from the county. Right, she has been a great business partner for this community. So once again, thank you, everyone, and we thanks Erica for hanging out with us. Ruby,
Thank you. This was
David for
great.
jumping on.
Thanks, Fran, for that good information.
Yeah,
Thank
Cheryl,
you.
we see you. Thank you for joining us. And Rodney, again, thank you, my brother from another mother, as we call ourselves. And Fran, what can we say? Fulton County, everything census stops at Fran's door. So thank you for all the
Yes.
work you've done. And, we should lobby for you for getting an extended vacation after September 30th. So
Yes.
we got, don't know if it's going to make a difference, but I'll put in a good word, Fran, and we'll see what happens. Okay. So everybody, once again, thanks much. This was great. This was awesome. And we just hope that we can work together and get folks to the finish line and get us to that 90%. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Mhm.
Thanks again. Good night.